Welcome to Nick's Mix and Flicks, where I talk music and movie reviews and other stuff too, you silly goose. Hey, have you ever thought, man, I wish there was a podcast that did a whole album and whole movie reviews all in one episode? Well, guess what? You found that podcast. You need to fear no longer, okay? You are here. You're home. Let's get into it. Yeah, when I hear music, got to talk about it. Got me a collection of movies that I can watch a lot of. If that's not your suit, at least try it on for a fit. You gotta tune into this Nick's Mix and Flicks. The album we will be reviewing today is Clancy by 21 Pilots.
Music time!
Clancy is the latest album from eclectic alt-rock hip-hop-ish duo 21 Pilots, and upon further research, I have found that there is an entire universe of lore surrounding just the discography of 21 Pilots. Tyler Joseph, aka Clancy, and Josh Dunn, aka the Torchbearer. Yes, they have alter egos, and they are referred to them sometimes. I don't know if in their music they are. This is really the first 21 Pilots album that I've listened to all the way, if I'm being so honest. So I don't really know that much. However, I do know that their fandom is called the Skeleton Clique, aka the Clickies. My wife, Sydney, is a 21 Pilots fan herself, so I talked to her a little bit about this episode, and yeah, she was like, man, it's so weird hearing you say the word Clicky and Clancy, Torchbearer. There's something in there called Dima, I think. Dima D nuts. Anyway, so basically there's a lot of lore, and I know that if you ask anyone in the Skeleton Clique or any clicky that you might know, they will have a storyboard worth of knowledge to explain to you the lore of this world, which is called Trench, by the way, and that's also the name of their album from 2018, I believe. Let me double check that. What the flip? Why isn't this? Yes. Sorry. Their album from 2018 is called Trench. So, if you want context to Clancy, probably go listen to Trench first. I didn't, and I'm not going to for this review. I am going off knowledge from a 10-minute, just under 10-minute video on YouTube from the channel Bandito Ugly Rat. I promise that is their channel name. I did not call them that. That is a very rude name to call somebody unless they want to be called that name. But if you yourself are interested in the lore, go check out their channel. Check out their video on the 21 Pilots lore. Again, that's Bandito Ugly Rat on YouTube. Give them a like. Give them a follow if you like their content. But other than that, we're going to keep going with the 21 Pilots. There's only 2 of them, by the way. There's not 21 of them. That is a common misconception. Handcrafting a world of lore takes time and creativity enough. And to have the ability to then accompany that lore and that story with music is nothing short of absolutely impressive, okay? Speaking of music, let's get into the track list. So there are 13 songs on Clancy. The first one being titled Overcompensate. The album kicks off right away with Overcompensate, just with a ton of energy. Lots of fun, bouncy, tap your foot, wave your finger, you kids, type energy. Anyway, the opening of the song, they say, welcome back to Trench, and it's in reference to their album titled Trench, but also to their world titled Trench, called Trench or whatever. Basically saying, welcome back to the world of Trench. We are pleased to have you. Thank you so much. Please do take off your shoes, though. This is a no-shoe world, so you can't be wearing your shoes in Trench. They don't actually say that, by the way, but I think it's kind of just implied. They say, welcome back to Trench. It's welcome back to Trench is kind of how it starts. So it's oh, okay. In the music video for this track, Clancy, a.k.a. Tyler Joseph, who is the lead singer, he plays the guitar. I don't know if he plays any other instruments. He is shown disillusioning the people of Trench. I believe they're called Banditos, which that is why that channel is called Bandito Ugly Rat. I don't know the context of the ugly rat part, but I do think that Bandito is in reference to the fact that the people of Trench are called Banditos. Tyler and Josh are kind of shown disillusioning the Banditos to the prophecies and the teachings of these overruler higher-ups, aka the bishops. That's what they're called in Trench. And I think they kind of reign over it. Tyler Joseph is openly Christian and very open about his faith and his doubts. He has a lot of songs. A lot of their songs are along those lines. So the religious angle kind of, doesn't come at much of a surprise. But it's good energy to start the track, or to start the album off. I would give this track probably a 7 out of 10. Which will lead us to our next song, Next Semester. This is a certified foot tapper, let me tell you what. It's a great follow-up to the opener. The energy's carried even better. Production is very impactful, and you really feel the songs musically, but also lyrically. They have the line, "Can't change what you've done. Start fresh next semester," which is a good reminder. It's like, hey, listen, the past is the past. Start fresh next semester. Let's start fresh tomorrow. Let's start fresh in 2 minutes. There's a great quote from the great Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda, and he says, "Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. And today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Rest in peace, Master Oogway. Big ups, my man up in the sky, my turtle shell up in the sky. Bless you, Master Oogway. But, just kind of a good sentiment in the second track. Next Semester kind of carries the energy very well from the first one. I don't know of its relevance in the lore of Trench or just the album as a whole. But in the music video, I'm going to be referencing the music videos a lot. This is not going to be like a regular thing. This is just strictly for this album. Because fun fact, they filmed a music video for every single song on this album. There are 13 tracks. They actually have 14 music videos for this album because one of the songs has 2 different versions to it. But for Next Semester, we're going to give this track a 7.5 out of 10. Woo! Following Next Semester is a track called Backslide. It's more of a low-key energy. It's still there, just not as heavy and loud for now. It's giving every day. It's giving the repetitive nature of life. I feel like the song emphasizes the importance of being comfortable, accepting, and asking for help from other people too. We all struggle. We all need stuff. We all have needs. And sometimes, ask other people. That's what they're there for. Ain't no worries. Ain't no fret about it. Don't be fretting. Don't be fretting, okay? But I am impressed with Tyler Joseph and his pen, his ability to write catchy tunes. Backslide is pretty chill, but it is catchy. I feel like every song so far feels like an anthem, which I like. Just looking at the cover, knowing kind of the context of it, it fits well. I feel like the anthem kind of theme fits very well. However, overall, I will give this song a 6.5 out of 10. I just feel like it was kind of lacking some originality maybe. So Backslide gets a 6.5 out of 10. Midwest Indigo follows Backslide on the album. And this is probably the most fun I had with the track at this point in the album. Feels like a summer banger, but in the music video, the drummer Joshua Dunthany, is just kind of on a frozen lake playing the drums. He's just drumming his little heart out. And Tyler is kind of skating around on the ice on the same frozen lake with the camera, singing, playing the guitar. They're just 2 goofy guys having fun on the frozen lake. It's the duality of songwriting, the juxtaposition, if you will. This is just the position I'm in. Hey, no time. Watch the clock fly by in the bright sky. Anyway, I don't believe I used juxtaposition correctly there, but those were bars, so no denying that. For the music video, there was a user with the handle Kayla Hernandez-18U. Kayla commented, "Love 21 Pilots, and I'm only 9, so I cannot go to a concert." Kayla, if you're listening, I hope you're feeling better now. That comment was from about a month ago, so she's probably not over 9, but if she is, hopefully 10 is the age that her parents will allow young little Kayla to go see a 21 Pilots concert. Besides that, I think if I'm starting to understand the lore, I don't believe this takes place in the world of Trench. I could be wrong, though. Overall, we'll give Midwest Indigo a 7 out of 10. Following Midwest Indigo, Routines in the Night. With every song, I wait for the momentum to die. And with every song, I continue to be impressed. I love it. Thank you, 21 Pilots. Even though there's only 2 of you and not 21 of you. That would be a really big band. I think at that point it's more like an orchestra. Anyway, the songwriting in this track specifically itches a scratch in my brain. Again, Tyler just has the ability to write catchy tune after catchy tune, and I love it. I'm sure we can all relate to staying up late at night, unable to sleep because our brain wants to remind us of every mistake we've made in the past. That's what this song is kind of about. Routines in the night. It's nighttime. We all have our nighttime routine, but what if it's the routine that you stay up at night? You overthink all the time. For example, my brain will hey, Nick, remember that time you saw a girl that you used to go to school with at the movie theater and she recognized you and she was like, oh, hey, hi, Nick, what's up? And then I was like, oh, hey. And, jokingly, she was like, hey, you probably didn't recognize me without my makeup on. Ha ha ha. And you straight face said to her, yeah, no, I didn't. You remember that? You remember that, Nick? Okay, yes, brain, I do. That has nothing to do with anything. But anyway, we've all been there, right? We've all had that extremely specific situation happen to us time and time again. But, I like this song. Routines in the Night is good. I give this an 8 out of 10, which is my highest ranking thus far. And we were 5 tracks in. I don't know. That might be topped. I can't remember if I have anything higher. Ooh, I do. I have one higher than that. Okay. After Routines in the Night, we have Vignette. Definitely, unfortunately, my least favorite track so far. Sorry if you are a Vignette stan. I'm not a huge fan of this song. And I had a feeling as soon as I started mentioning liking every song so far, one would come that I wasn't huge on. And this is that song. I'm so sorry. Tyler and Josh, please. Please don't banish me into the world of Trench. I don't want to die. I like my life here on Earth. I'm just not huge on it. However, I did really like the concept of the music video. And the last few music videos have, really showcased the friendship between Tyler and Josh. They're good friends, and you can tell just by the way they act with each other. It's so sweet. It's just the sweetest thing ever. It really is. Musically, though, this track did struggle to keep my attention. Not gonna lie, just being upfront with y'all. I also keep expecting every song to bring up parts of the lore, and I don't think there's much here with this one either. Could totally be wrong, could totally be reading it wrong. Please don't come after me. I am just a wee man listening to this album for the first time all the way through. Overall, 5.5 out of 10 for Vignette. Now, if you remember from the beginning, I mentioned a track having 2 music videos. This is the track, The Craving. On the album, The Craving is, in parentheses, Jenna's version, which is Tyler Joseph's wife. So sweet. I guess he keeps a song on each album kind of dedicated to his wife. They did drop 2 versions of this song, though. The Craving, the single version, which is, I believe, an acoustic guitar, kind of high energy, but then the version on the album, Jenna's version, is, I believe, just him on a ukulele. It's okay. It's a different sound. It's a very slow, it's definitely the lowest energy that we have. Lowest, I like that. But yeah, it's definitely the lowest amount of energy we've had so far. And again, not huge on it. I still keep myself being distracted by the declaration of more ball-dropping lore promised in the opening track. With the line, welcome back to Trench. So far, pretty good. Overall, for this track, for Jenna's version, I'm thinking a 6 out of 10. Now, Tyler and Josh come back swinging with the next track, Lavish, with an upbeat anthem of anti-industry satire, where the band kind of criticizes the ridiculous culture of fame, fortune, and quote-unquote lavish living. It's not that I didn't like the song. I do think it's decent, but it is far from the best 21 Pilots I've heard. Again, very fun music video, where this time around the pair is strolling through a small town in a limousine, apparently living that quote-unquote lavish lifestyle. We see them in suits, dancing around sipping Capri Suns, in their words, like it's Dom Perignon, which, if you didn't know, is a brand of vintage champagne. Now, I'm no consumer of alcohol myself, and looking at the prices of a bottle of Dom Perignon gives me just one other reason to not consume alcohol, because holy moly. But they do mention drinking Capri Suns, so let's compare the price of a bottle of Dom Perignon and a bottle of Capri Sun. Just Capri Sun juice, I guess is what it would be. So the price range of a bottle of Dominic Perignon Johnson is somewhere between $250 and $400 for about 25 ounces of wine. Now, the price range for a jug of Capri Sun juice is somewhere between $2 to $3 for 64 ounces. Clearly, there's a winner here. I'm going with the Capri Sun. Sorry, Dom Perignon. I don't drink, and even if I did, I could not afford a bottle of champagne for that much. But the song is decent. And again, these guys made a music video for every single track plus one, so they're really killing it. Lyrically, it's all right. There are a couple of questionable lines. For example, this is directly quoted from the lyrics. Keep it cool. Keep the mood androgynous. I see your problem is your proctologist got both hands on your shoulder while you're bottomless. Alrighty then. I like the chill vibe it's going for, but I feel like the second half of the album so far doesn't quite match the atmosphere of the first half. Overall, 5.5. Let's move on to the next track, Navigating. Hey yo, are we back in Trench? It's about time. Good grief. See, this is what I've been waiting for. The energy from the first few songs, the imagery of Trench, the in-your-face production, the production just punched me in the face, right in the jaw. This is what we were promised at the very beginning of this album. And I'll be honest with you, as excited as I am that the lore has seemed to pick up, I am so lost at this point. I think in the video it's revealed that Clancy, aka Tyler, has been traveling with like an imaginary version of the torchbearer, aka Josh. Why is that relevant? What does that have to do with the rest of the story? I've got no clue, but the lore continuation itself is not lost on me. I do appreciate it very much. And I love the fact that we kind of get to move along with the story and discover what's next for the duo. And holy cow, the drums in this song are nothing short of complete awesomeness. Josh Dunn, aka husband of Radio Rebel herself, Debbie Ryan, brings his absolute A game with the vibe and energy of this track. It is no coincidence to me that the songs that seem to have the most to do with like the lore are the tracks that I've enjoyed the most. This is peak 21 Pilots in my opinion. This is how to catch the audience's attention. Overall, 8.5 out of 10. Woo! Yeah, let's go. 21 Pilots, they're back. Speaking of back, the next song, Snap Back. It's like Backslide Part 2. LOL, JK. Haha, Raffle, SMH. I am so chuggy for that. Anyway, tongue out emoji. I feel like the subject matter of this song can very much be related to the subject matter of the earlier track, Backslide. Backslide is just kind of him being like, oh, I don't want to backslide. I don't want to fall back to where I started. There's no chance I will shake this again. Feeling like, if I fall back one more time, that's it. I'm donezo. So it's kind of, Snapback is kind of like a very similar theme, possibly referring to a slip back into like a bad habit or addiction. And on Snapback, Tyler sings, it's a backslide. I commandeered a hot ride, drove it again till the engine dies. All of that progress lost today. Tyler, or Clancy, has fallen back into what he was trying to avoid here. When people try to kick addictions or habits, and they fall back, they relapse, and it's easy for them to feel like all progress is lost. They binge, they crash, they hit rock bottom, and they start all over again. I would like to add, for anybody who is struggling with an addiction or trying to kick a habit, you are not alone. Many people deal with the same thing in their lives, and there are plenty of people and resources to help. If anyone you know is struggling with addiction to anything, reach out and offer a hand of help. Okay, soapbox over. This is the type of lyricism I love. Callbacks and references to other songs and themes, a sort of half symbolism, half blunt approach. I tried my best to kick this thing, but I ended up falling back into it, which is super honest, super humble and open of Tyler to be writing about this. Despite the heavy subject matter, there's almost like a cloudy atmosphere to the track that makes it feel like a light listen. Tyler dances around all silly. Reminds me of the bathroom dancing scene in Joker when he's got his hands above his head. Very completely different themes, completely different tone even, but it did make me think of that. Overall, Snapback gets a 7.5 out of 10. We're on the last 3 tracks of this album. We're going to start the closing 3 with Oldie Station. I totally don't know how to feel about this song. I do like it as a standalone track, but I'm not sure it feels like part of the Clancy story. It does feel like 21 Pilots in the music video seems, it's like a fun and quirky idea that is well executed. I feel like for the most part, that's just about every single one of their music videos. No offense. I feel like that's pretty fair to say. However, like a handful of tracks on the album so far, I am struggling to find the lore relevance. Maybe I'm the problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking for a connection in every single song, and maybe that isn't the point. But, when you start the album off like, welcome back to Trench, I'm going to be looking for connections to Trench. My bad. The message of the song, push on through, is a sentiment that we probably use quite often, but it does kind of feel like a bit of a filler song. The idea of starting again, pushing through, has now been kind of spread across a few songs to the point where they feel like the same song to me, just with different lyrics. Maybe that's a hot take, but Oldie Station is getting a 5 out of 10 from me. Coming up next, we have At the Risk of Feeling Dumb. See, now this I like. The switch up throughout the song catches me off guard like each time, and it's always a welcome surprise. A good reminder, as the lyrics suggest to check in on your friends and family, even at the risk of feeling dumb. Roll credits. Boom. I just did mic drop. Very soft mic drop because I don't want to break my microphone. Quite a bit of rapping from Tyler on this one. This isn't something I've touched on in this review yet, but as a fan of rap, I'm not quite a fan of Tyler's raps. I'm sure within the Clickies fan base, there are at least a few listeners that probably max out their rap intake with 21 Pilots. Let me talk on an actual rap level here, though. 21 Pilots is not good rap, which I promise you is a commonly shared opinion. Also, is it out of place to say that we're one track away from the closer and I'm kind of bored? Nothing really catches my attention too much here on this track, except for one thing, the drums. Shout out to Josh Dunn on the drums. This is a 6 without the drums, but I give this a 6.5 strictly because of the drums, which will bring us to our closing song, Paladin, or no. Closing song, Paladin Straight. Already, just looking at the length, the track is 6.5 minutes long, and I'm cautious right off the bat. I do think that the caution was a little misplaced. We indeed got massive ball-dropping lore for this one, which is what I've wanted the entire album. Is that too much to ask for? I don't think so. The music video depicts Clancy and the Torchbearer, aka Tyler and Josh, and an army of banditos. Shout out to Bandito Ugly Rat, which is the name of their posse in Trench. They travel to the overrulers of the world to defeat them, aka the bishops. Then the bishops see this and they're like, bro, we can't have that. So they raise up an army of the undead to fight the banditos, and a battle ensues as the duo leads their crew to the front gate of whatever Airbnb-looking castle the bishops rented to have this epic battle at. During the fight, Clancy sneaks his way up the wall of whatever rental castle this is to defeat the bishops, and manages to defeat all but one of them. The one he's searching for is named Nico. I don't know who this Nico character is, but I know he knows who Clancy is. He knows Clancy is Clancy, which I think is supposed to be like a reveal. But since I've been referring to him as Clancy the entire time, sorry if I spoiled that reveal for you. But we're kind of left on a cliffhanger. The track features a whole minute of birds chirping. That's it. But if you are a 21 Pilots fan, I do think there's more to this story. I don't think this ends with this album. And Tyler, unless Tyler and Josh have stated otherwise, then probably not. Overall, I will give the closing track, Paladin Straight, a 7 out of 10. Clancy is an experience for sure. I was not prepared for what was in store. I will say, I think the album is more enjoyable and memorable with the accompanying music videos. With the total of 13 tracks and 14 music videos, again, one song has 2, and that is The Craving. The time and skill required to accomplish a project like this is nothing to scoff at for sure, but there were just quite a few highlights, and I did enjoy the sound and the vibe of the album for the most part. I do think a handful of songs kind of blend into each other. I don't know where one starts and then the next one begins. It's like a big long song. Some people might feel like in order for an album to be like cohesive, it needs to sound like the same thing the entire time. I disagree. While difficult, it is possible to successfully reach the theme and sound that you're going for without making half the songs kind of sound like the same song. No disrespect to Tyler and Josh, not Joseph, oopsies, but I think that you could utilize more than just a few sounds to achieve an overall theme. So overall, I give Clancy by 21 Pilots a 6.7 out of 10. I would have liked to hear different sounds throughout. Also, more of that, just ball-dropping lore, please. More of the lore. More lore.
Movie time!
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was directed by Edgar Wright and written by Michael Bacall, Edgar Wright, the director, and Brian Lee O'Malley. It's actually based on the graphic novel series Scott Pilgrim, which is actually written by Brian Lee O'Malley. So it is pretty cool, and I would say probably very helpful that Brian Lee came on to help script this amazing movie. I absolutely freaking love this movie. Released in 2010, the official IMDb synopsis states, a young man must defeat his girlfriend's 7 evil exes who are willing to do anything to prevent her happiness with someone else. So that's IMDb synopsis. My synopsis would be, quote, goofy wacky video game fun time adventures with Michael Cera and Captain America. Yes, Chris Evans is in this movie. Ladies, I know you're excited about that. I'm also kind of excited about that. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, Sydney, I love you. But I also know that you also love Chris Evans, so it's fair, I think. The film follows 22-year-old Scott Pilgrim, a Toronto native who plays in a band called Sex Bob Om. Scott is dating high schooler Knives Chow, who is Scott's rebound that he says isn't a rebound. While sleeping one night, Scott dreams of a girl named Ramona Flowers, whom he meets in real life shortly after. Scott becomes romantically interested in Ramona and continues to see Knives as well. Eventually breaking things off with Knives after he's already kind of been with Ramona, though, so Scott, buddy, what are you doing, man? This is the first brief part of the plot, and we already kind of don't like you, brother. At the first round of a Battle of the Bands contest in which Sex Bob-omb is competing for a record deal with a G-Man Graves, Scott meets Matthew Patel, one of Ramona's 7 evil exes. Scott then learns that he must defeat 7 of Ramona's evil exes in order to continue dating her. Scott says, ex-boyfriends? Ramona says, exes. Later on, we meet Scott's big ex, Envy Adams, which Scott's roommate Wallace refers to Envy as the E word. We meet Envy Adams, who is now dating her co-band member Todd Ingram, who is also one of Ramona's evil exes. After defeating Todd, Scott is tired and scorns Ramona on why she only dates jerks. Because he's like, what's up with all these evil ex-boyfriends? And she's like, exes. And he was like, yo, why do you keep correcting me? And at that very moment, in comes Roxy. I believe Roxy Richter is her last name. Ramona's ex-girlfriend? Question mark? Scott refuses to hit a girl, though, and so Ramona helps him fight her. However, Scott must defeat Roxy herself, so Ramona guides Scott's hands and help her defeat Roxy in a very unexpected and very, intimate way. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to know more, just watch the movie. Pretty silly. It's a pretty silly scene. It's a pretty silly movie. After this, Ramona kind of disappears, and Scott is left alone, and Sex Bob-omb competes against the Katiyanagi twins in the next round of the Battle of the Bands. So if you're keeping count, I believe that is... I totally skipped over Chris Evans. Okay, so Chris Evans, his name is Lucas Lee in the movie, and he plays this, actor, skater. He owns his own, skate shop, skate brand, but he plays this very, very just cocky, douchey dude, which Chris Evans, I'm sure you're a great guy, but man, oh man, are you just really good at playing complete, utter jerks. Think about his character in Knives Out. I also think about his character in The Gray Man, which is the Netflix movie by the Russo brothers with Ryan Gosling and I believe Ana de Armas. But Chris Evans, you're a great guy, I'm sure, but you're just really good at playing bad guys. I don't know. Obviously, except for the Steve Rogers Captain America. Salute to my Captain America. Sorry, I did not. Whoa. I don't mean it like that, okay? Salute to that Captain America. And also to the new Captain America. There we go. I think we covered all the grounds. Anyway, we go into the Battle of the Katiyanagi twins with Sex Bob-omb. And they defeat the twins. And we find out that the twins... Ramona also dated the twins, at the same time, I don't know. So, after seemingly losing the battle to the band, it's revealed that label executive G-Man Graves is actually Gideon Graves, the last of Ramona's evil exes that Scott must face. Throughout the movie, one of Scott's co-band members, Steven Stills, refers to Gideon, G-Man, whatever. His name is brought up a lot. Scott then finds out that Ramona's last evil ex, the biggest one, is the producer that Sex Sex Bomb is trying to sign a record deal with. So, yeah. So the band comes back. Scott leads them into a victory over the Twins. And after the battle, Gideon signs Sex Bomb to a record deal, but with Scott's other bandmate, Young Neil, who replaces Scott. Wow. The betrayal. It's crazy. Scott now, with a vengeance, must face Gideon. Scott breaks into the Chaos Theater owned by Gideon and attempts to defeat him, but is instead defeated. We see Scott in a purgatory of sorts, loathing and self-pity. He speaks with Ramona and discovers that Gideon literally implanted a chip in the back of her neck, which controls her. Sus. Kind of red flag right there. So Scott gets a life and returns back to life to make a final attempt in defeating Gideon. Scott storms back into the Chaos Theater and fights Gideon like pow, 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 yeah. And this time he earns the power of self-respect, which its physical form is like a sword that comes out of his chest. It's not bloody. It's very like video game-esque, but yeah, Scott earns the power of self-respect. And he fights Gideon. And during their battle, Knives engages in a fight with Ramona because Knives is like, yo, Ramona, girl, you stole my boyfriend. Ramona, you are fat. She calls Ramona fat like a couple of times, which is kind of mean. It's very mean. And Ramona's like, you're tripping, first of all. Did not steal your boyfriend. And then Scott is like, yo, guys, calm down. I cheated on both of you. I'm so sorry. And that's pretty much where he stops there. Scott then helps Ramona and Knives make up, and the three of them kind of defeat Gideon together. And just when you think the battle is over, Scott has defeated Gideon, and Gideon is like, you can defeat me, but can you defeat yourself? And so then Scott is challenged to face NEGA Nega Scott, short for negative. NEGA Nega Scott, the shadow clone of himself that was supposed to be his most formidable foe. Turns out they are literally the same person, so they get along quite well. Scott walks outside to meet Knives and Ramona, with the latter leaving Knives and Scott to be alone together. Knives tells Scott to chase after Ramona because that's literally who he's been fighting for all along. And Scott and Ramona then enter a door to their bright future together. So fresh, so cute. The very first scene of the movie is like the Universal logo, but it's done in like an 8-bit kind of style. And I feel like my dad would really like it a lot, even if he didn't enjoy the rest of the movie. Dad, if you're listening, I can show you the beginning of the movie. I don't know. But Edgar Wright also displays his like signature dry comedy and shooting style. I absolutely love the humor in this movie. As a big fan of music as well, I adore the way this movie incorporates the music of the bands in the pacing of the film. The main actors in Sex Bomb actually learned how to play the instruments. Michael Cera did actually know how to play bass before, and they actually kind of told him like, hey, dumb it down a little bit for your castmates. Allison Peel, who played Kim, she's the drummer, and then Mark Webber, who plays Steven Stills, learned how to play the guitar for the filming of the movie as well. So that's pretty cool. I feel like that's fun. It makes your actors relate to their characters a lot more because it's like, oh man, like we have to do all this stuff. I was going to include a whole section of like jokes that I like from the movie, but that would literally just be me typing out like the entire script, which I could totally do, by the way, because my wife and I, Sydney, hi Sydney, we just went to Seattle for our honeymoon, and in Pike Place they have like a comic shop with an aisle full of copies of movie scripts. So we picked up 5. We picked up Scott Pilgrim. We picked up The Office Diversity Day. The original Scream. We picked up the pilot episode for Community. And then also the script for the pilot episode for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I do want to share a few jokes, though. There's a joke where Scott is trying to order something from Amazon because we learned that Ramona is actually a delivery driver / roller skater for Amazon. So Scott asking his roommate Wallace, Scott's like, hey, Wallace, what's the website to Amazon.ca? And Wallace is like, Amazon.ca. In a scene where Scott is using the restroom, there's like a digitized pee bar that appears above him that lowers as he pushes his urine out. Pretty funny as well. This movie actually used to be included in my top 4 favorite films on Letterboxd of all time, which, if you don't know, I am on Letterboxd at Nick's Mix and Flicks. Go give me a follow. You should do that. This movie is still amongst the top 5 or top 10. I also haven't touched on how absolutely stacked this cast is yet. We have the following people, and here's what I knew them from before I watched this movie. Michael Cera as Scott Pilgrim. I knew him from Superbad. I hadn't seen Superbad yet, but I knew that he was in it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers. I knew her from Sky High, which is a Disney Channel original movie. Shout out Sky High. She plays like the main villain girl that the guy has a crush on. Kieran Culkin as Wallace Wells. He was in Home Alone. I also just kind of knew that he was Macaulay Culkin's brother. I mean, because how common of a last name is Culkin? It might be. I don't know. Johnny Simmons as Young Neil. I actually knew him from a movie called Hotel for Dogs, which is another Disney Channel original movie. We have Anna Kendrick as Stacy Pilgrim, the sister of Scott. She's from Pitch Perfect. I knew her from Pitch Perfect. Chris Evans as Lucas Lee. Captain America. Salute to both. Every Captain America. Just trying to cover my grounds here. Aubrey Plaza as Julie Powers. I knew her from Parks and Recreation. Classic, come on. Jason Schwartzman as Gideon Graves. I actually did know Jason Schwartzman from Saving Mr. Banks, which is that movie about Walt Disney, I think. There's Brie Larson as Envy Adams. Before this movie and prior to Captain Marvel, she was in a movie called Room, which is an A24 movie. Very, very good. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I do recommend that. We have Nelson Franklin as Como. He's from The Office. I think his name in The Office is Nick. He's one of like the IT guys. And last but not least, Bill Hader, as he's credited as the voice. He's like the narrator of the movie. We got a couple of other jokes just to kind of close it out here. There's a scene where Wallace is trying to convince Scott to break out the L word with Ramona. Scott's like, I think it's over. And Wallace is like, yo, it's time to break out the L word. And Scott confusingly replies, he's like, lesbian? And Wallace says the other L word. And Scott says, lesbians? And Wallace says, it's love, Scott. I wasn't trying to trick you. It made me laugh quite a bit. I got chuckled. Or I got a chuckle out of it. I got chuckled, man. That chuckled me so hard. This also gets paid off later in the movie. Scott is trying to confess his love to Ramona, and he ends up saying, I'm in lesbians with you. Pretty funny, pretty silly. And then one of Ramona's exes, Todd, is vegan, and how the movie depicts him is having super abilities because of his veganism. So when Steven, Scott's bandmate, asks Todd, how do you have powers just because you're vegan? Todd's response is, you know how you only use 10% of your brain? That's because the other 90% is filled with curds and whey. Overall, I love Scott Pilgrim. I freaking love this movie. I would definitely give it at least a 7.5 out of 10. Probably an 8. I have just seen this movie so many times. I don't remember like the first time I watched it, but I know that it was somewhere between like the 2017 to 2020 range. But this has been a very favorite movie of mine for a long time. Overall, I would recommend both of these. Overall, I would recommend Clancy. If you like 21 Pilots, you know what you're getting. If you don't like 21 Pilots, maybe skip out on this one. This might just give you even more reason to not listen to 21 Pilots, just being honest. But I do absolutely recommend Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Again, one of my favorite movies of all time, and I just love it. I can't help but laugh every time I watch it. But I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of our review of Clancy and Scott Pilgrim. Let me know what you guys want to hear, what albums, what movies you want me to review in the future. Let me know. Also, if you liked what you heard, make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, whatever you're prompted to do on whatever platform you're on. I would really, really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.